So, who are you?
Kristyan Benedict, Crisis Response Manager at Amnesty International UK.
Okay. What's happening for the people of Palestine, people of Gaza right now? We can all see it on the news, it looks horrendous. But lots of people feel, well, it's the Middle East conflict, it's extremely complicated, it goes back thousands of years. What would we say to people that don't know whether or not they have the right to speak out?
Well, of course, everybody has the right to speak out about what they're seeing on the TVs, what they're reading in the paper, the absolute horrors that people in the region are living through right now. For Palestinians in particular, especially those in Gaza living under an illegal and inhumane 16-year blockade with little access to food, to electricity, to medicine. Many UN special rapporteurs, experts in human rights, have said they're trying to prevent genocide right now. We are at that stage now. So, these are people, men, women, children, the elderly, people with disabilities, people with a life, people with dreams, just like you and I. And they want to live, and it's up to us. It's up to us to tell their stories and to speak out for justice for them.
So you're saying that regardless of how complicated the history is, what we are seeing right now are people dying, and there can't be a justification for that. So you have to speak out regardless. You
have to speak out. Every situation, every conflict, every country has its long, decades-long, centuries-long history.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you're a child, a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old child, none of that matters. You want to eat, you want to drink water, you want to play games, you want to be able to grow up and go to university. That's been denied by the occupation, by the apartheid, by the blockade that Israel is imposing on them. That's what we at Amnesty are trying to end right now.
So, saying this is bad, children are dying, people are dying in their thousands, that's one thing. But what should we actually be saying to our elected representatives? What should we be saying on social media? What do we want to happen now?
Well, the first thing is that ceasefire. You can't do anything else in terms of the longer term process until you have an end to this fighting and the violations that are going on, the war crimes and the crimes against humanity. You've got to get to a point where people have stopped fighting and are sitting down and are talking. Nothing else matters unless you stop that fighting.
Okay. And so once you do get the ceasefire, you then move to talking, and what then happens? What would you want to happen? What would the future of Israel and Palestine be, ideally?
Well, ceasefire is stage one, and if you're looking at a situation like Gaza, you've got massive humanitarian needs, which are going to last for a long, long time. So it's not just about getting food in there, not just about getting water and medicine, getting critical infrastructure rebuilt. And this is why, by the way, humanitarian pause doesn't work off like 4 or 5 days. You can't rebuild critical infrastructure like the water networks, like hospitals, in 4 or 5 days. You need a longer period of time. And that's why we're saying a ceasefire is needed. To reconstruct what has been pulverized by Israeli forces in Gaza. Once you can get to that situation, sort out the humanitarian crisis, you're then getting into more political dimensions around, okay, where do we go from here? How do we create a situation where everybody's human rights, Israelis, Palestinians in the wider region as well, can be protected? We're so far away from that because right now we're just concentrating on this devastating humanitarian crisis.
But that's the thing. Once we do solve the current crisis, we then have to solve the fundamental problems.
Yeah.
Because we've heard from lots of commentators, lots of politicians that imply that this whole crisis started on the 7th of October this year.
Yeah. So
what was the situation? What was the circumstances that give the context to what we've seen since?
I think it's such a good point there around that this crisis did not start on October the 7th. It's an explosion that happened then, massive amounts of war crimes going on. But you've got to remember that we are dealing with a situation of decades of occupation, colonialism, apartheid, and impunity. Impunity enjoyed by all sides, by Hamas, by Islamic Jihad, by Israeli forces, and that's why a proper justice and accountability process is really, really crucial. The International Criminal Court has an investigation. It's had one since 2021. We want to see governments, including the UK government, fully supporting that. That's a really, really crucial thing to... It's the impunity, the injustice that drives this crisis, the feeling that you can get away with murder and no one's going to do anything about it. And that's what we need to end.
And what is it that makes it an occupation? You say that Israel, the occupation is the problem, but how is Gaza, how is the West Bank occupied?
Well, Gaza, there's this myth that the Israeli authorities and some of their supporters say that, well, Gaza isn't occupied. We withdrew many, many years ago. There's a point about effective control. The Israeli authorities have effective control over the land, the air, the sea, the borders, what goes in, what goes out, who goes in, who goes out. It's a de facto occupation. And where we are now, they've got boots on the ground. They've got drones in the sky. They've got F-16s in the sky. That's what we mean by an occupation. It's one element of a wider project of colonization and eventual annexation as well. And we're in a dangerous moment now where you have people in the Israeli government who want to take all of the land, not just hold on to what they have in terms of Israel proper, but not just the West Bank, but also Gaza. We're in a dangerous moment now.
Okay, so your message to the government of the UK would be?
Well, the government of the UK, first and foremost, call for a ceasefire. That's really crucial. Get more humanitarian aid in. Be serious about addressing the past 30 years of failure when it comes to the so-called two-state solution, the so-called peace process. It's been a failure since Oslo, 30 years, because human rights and justice and accountability for Israelis and Palestinians were not central to that peace process. And if you're going to have another conversation and another set of international conferences with all the parties, everybody's human rights need to be respected and protected. It can't be this shabby deal that we had in Oslo yet again. So that's what we need to say to the government, that all parties, Israelis and Palestinians, all their rights need to be fully protected in any future peace process.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anytime. All good. Very good.
That's perfect. Thank you.